Hello, guys. Good evening. Good evening and good evening and good evening. I'm super happy that you're here tonight. I'm actually super happy that I'm here tonight because it's been a long day. Lots was going on, but I'm so glad that I decided to go live tonight because we have to continue this conversation in reference to what happened yesterday to President Trump. And we just gotta, I need to understand how this happened. And so that's what this live stream is about tonight. There's been a lot of talks about the Secret Service and how they may have fumbled the ball, the old Finkel, they may have fumbled the ball. How is it that there were open spaces where the president was vulnerable, and this thing happened. So I needed to understand because that intro video that you saw for my membership showing y'all all the different events and things, as I was watching that along with you guys, I think about 5 different shots in there were different rallies that I'd been to. So and I was just thinking about the whole scenes of getting there and going through security and all of these things. Like, even I remember I was at one rally and I remember there were like buildings around us and I could see the snipers. Well, what are they called? The Secret Service. I could see the Secret Service like gun toting like around us. Like they're there. And so like, how can this happen? How could this have happened where the president was just left wide open, where this guy took a shot? Like he was like not even that far away. And I mean, I needed to understand it. So we're going to look at a couple of different videos. Dan Bongino, who used to be a Secret Service guy. So he's going to give us some insight. We have Cory Mills. By the way, disclaimer, he is my representative. And around these parts, we call him, what's the hero? Like, oh God, I can't think of the hero. Rambo. He's like our Rambo around here because he goes and he rescues people. He went to rescue people in Haiti during this last cycle of the craziness that's happening there. We're not going to get into that now, but yeah, he went to Haiti to rescue people. He went into Afghanistan to rescue people. He was recently in Israel. I mean, he's the Rambo. He's a real life Rambo. So Representative Cory Mills, we're going to let him tell us a little bit about these things. And we're gonna get into it because I'm eager to hear all about this again. But first, we're going to start with a new guy that I don't know, but I saw his video and he explained some things really, really well. And I thought this was a good way to really start it because he was really giving you visuals and things about the roof and how all this thing, laid out. So we're going to see a bit of his video. So we're going to add him to the screen. And we're going to get this party started. So thank you guys for coming by. Drop me something in the chat. Say hello. And we're going to move this horse. Okay, let's do it.
Multiple shots at former President Donald Trump in an assassination attempt at a rally in Pennsylvania. One of the bullets struck Trump in the ear, causing him to quickly take cover behind the podium. We can see within 3 seconds the first line of Secret Service defense jumped into the line of fire, creating a shield around him with their bodies. This is not a political video. The purpose of this is to examine the assassination attempt using open source intelligence methods and expert analysis from law enforcement officers. Lieutenant Tim McMillan, retired law enforcement officer who has extensive experience having worked 5 presidential details in the past, said this on X. They basically formed a bulletproof barrier around him. They didn't let him stand up until after they knew the shooter was down. They would have gotten communications through their radio devices in their earpieces confirming this. At this moment, the agents are not just protecting Trump, but they're also checking his body for additional injuries and assessing his condition to see if he's ambulatory or not, to see if he can move on his own. Because when someone's adrenaline is pumping, Shock can prevent them from knowing if they have multiple injuries. It's actually not their job to return fire immediately, and that's because, meanwhile, the Secret Service counter-sniper team, located here on this rooftop, returned fire within moments and eliminated the gunman here 130 meters away with a shot to the head. About 16 seconds after the shooting first started, the final gunshot can be heard, presumably from the counter-sniper team. Tim McMillan put it this way, saying, quote, "People have wondered, how could the counter-snipers in the video not have seen the would-be assassin prior to him getting off a shot? This is because the area of responsibility for those counter-snipers on the roof behind Trump was very likely in the extended tier. Essentially, they were scanning for threats a great distances well beyond the roughly 150 meters the threat appeared. This is evidenced by the fact that the elevated counter-sniper has to dramatically drop his line of sight to respond to the shooter. 27 seconds after the first shot was fired, we see the next line of defense reach their positions. Members of the Secret Service more heavily armed counter-assault team, seen here in full black uniform, sporting SR-16 suppressed rifles, establish a security perimeter on the stage. They're looking for potential threats that are close quarters. We can see them scanning the up-close rows of the crowd from 0 to 100 meters, because they know the counter-sniper teams are scanning for threats beyond 100 meters. We can see the agents in multicam set up security facing the rear, which shows the tactical discipline of this team, because not every single agent is facing the direction of the incoming fire. There's a natural tendency in human beings to key in on and get tunnel vision on the direction where shots are coming from, but it takes discipline to establish that 360-degree security. This is necessary because they don't know if there might still be another threat out there at this point. Secret Service CAT teams were originally established in 1979, and this is the first time in history that I believe they've responded to a shooting incident involving a former or current president. Trump.
Hold a second. Just a quick interruption there. So this Secret Service team, this is their first time actually dealing with a situation like this, because this was not put together until 1979. So that's what I think I heard. So this was like their first, game, so to speak. This was their first time doing this. Wow. And they fumbled the ball. Like, wow. This was their first time dealing with it. And it happened under Trump. Wow. Well, it happened under Biden, but you know what I mean. 45 years with no job to do until now. You're right. Like, so what have they been doing all this time? Like, what have they been doing? This was the first time they actually got to play, and this is what happened. This is what happened. 45 years. Thank you for doing the math, because I was wondering. Nearly 50 years. Wow.
Then told his security service detail to wait. He raised his fist and pumped it at the crowd. He shouted, "Fight," as the crowd chanted USA back. When asked about this moment, McMillan said, quote, "As for letting him pose for the photo op, there's always a degree of conflict between the personal protection detail and the political asset. One's entire mission is to protect their asset, the other's is to be political. I also saw firsthand when then Vice President Biden deviated from the pre-planned path to shake people's hands during a 2013 visit to Savannah. The agents on the ground then escorted Trump to a predetermined evacuation point roughly 50 meters to the rear of the stage in a reinforced armored truck. At this point, roughly 2 minutes after the first shots rang out, he's evacuated and his motorcade then sped to a hospital where he received treatment. Swarms of additional units then make their way to the stage. As a result of the assassination attempt, one attendee was killed and 2 others were injured who are still in critical condition from the rounds that missed the president. When I watched the video of what happened last night, it filled me with a visceral reaction of disgust and anger. It made me concerned for my country. I'm praying that somehow we can find a way to emerge from this tragedy stronger than before and show that we won't let the deranged acts of one individual tear us apart. This is a satellite image of the venue where the rally was held at Butler Farms Showgrounds near Butler, Pennsylvania. It's a wide open outdoor field with ground level and rooftop visibility that extends over 100 meters in every direction. The gunman was able to somehow evade security and managed to get onto this rooftop here. It's about 420 feet or 130 meters away from the podium and stage where Trump was giving his speech. He was on a one-story building with a pitch that's probably about 25 feet in elevation. Law enforcement reported the shooter used an AR-style rifle recovered at the scene. This suggests that it's most likely a .556 round. If that's the case, with a scope, 130 meters is an incredibly easy shot for someone who knows how to shoot. The 6 to 8 bullets appeared to miss President Trump by only a few millimeters after he turned his head slightly to the right. The gunman might have aimed for the head because it wouldn't be unheard of for a politician to wear body armor during a speech. It looks like the Secret Service counter-sniper team were using what looks to be a special version of the bolt-action Remington 700 with a suppressor firing a 300 Winchester Magnum round with a powerful variable scope. For reference, that's got substantial recoil and pinpoint accuracy out to 800 meters and beyond. To the point of what McMillan was saying earlier, this is the type of rifle that you'd be looking for extended range threats beyond 150 meters. This video posted on X of the counter-sniper team has 15 million views, with people disagreeing on whether or not the would-be assassin took the first shot or if the counter-sniper team fired first. The way I look at the security measures are that they're a tiered and layered approach. The sniper team is one of the last lines of defense. If they're pulling triggers, that means a lot of other steps have already gone wrong, because ideally a shooter should never even have gotten within a mile of an elevated clear shot of the former president. People are inevitably going to be picking apart the split-second decisions of the first responders, and I can understand why there's some value in that. But I think the more important question is, how much resources and funding were they given based on the tempo of their operations, and how big was Trump's Secret Service personnel detail? How many resources did they have available to them? How thin were they spread? In Tim McMillan's analysis, he stated, quote, "Based on limited details at this point, in my opinion, the security breakdown occurred in the middle tier, which would likely include law enforcement who were supposed to be assigned to the area near the outbuildings. History was at a fork in the road here that was determined by less than an inch in a fraction of a second. This building that the gunman took up a firing position on is not a part of the Butler Farm Show perimeter. It lies just outside and belongs to a different company called AGR International. They're a supplier of automation equipment for glass and plastic packaging, but that could be one potential reason as to why this happened, because it was outside the perimeter of the event. But beyond a few trees, there's nothing between the president, just a wide open field that separates the two. The Secret Service advance team would have created a plan weeks in advance that normally would have identified every single elevated potential sniper position within line of sight. A quick count shows there are about 18 buildings that have a clear line of sight that I've marked for you on the map. Agents would normally either have someone posted up on each location, or they would strictly control access to all these buildings on the ground days in advance. I actually have some idea of how these operations work, because over 10 years ago in 2015, President Obama visited a place that I was working at. The Secret Service came to our building weeks in advance for preparation. They did a background check on me and everyone who worked there to make sure none of us were a bunch of weirdos. The Secret Service entirely blocked off access to multiple blocks in Midtown New York City. They even parked a row of garbage trucks from the city all around the building to prevent vehicle-borne IEDs from driving into or slamming through the perimeter checkpoints. They spared no expense, did multiple bomb sweeps in advance, and checked to ensure the building was empty the night before. This is called a sterilizing operation, where they do these kind of clean sweeps. Agents were thorough and detailed. However, it's possible that the former president was not granted the same size security service for his detail or security funding. My understanding is that former President Trump would have had an increased security detail available to him as soon as he officially became the Republican nominee this week. Information is still coming out, and we still have a lot to learn in the coming days and weeks, but normally those buildings, especially ones that are that close in proximity, would have had...
I'm going to stop it right here because he said something that I thought was kind of interesting. Being that the shooting happened the weekend before the convention, which actually the convention starts today. So it happens like literally the day before. He would have had this extra Secret Service upon him. I think they're going to announce it maybe in a couple of days, but still, it's like right there. This was like their last opportunity to take advantage of Trump not having a whole bunch of, extra Secret Service. So I thought that was very interesting. Like maybe this was something that they've really been looking at, like figuring it out, because come after next week, it would be a lot more difficult to get to Trump, as opposed to, how this thing happened right now. I just thought that was kind of an interesting point to make in all of this.
That access restricted, which is why this eyewitness account is all the more concerning.
We noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely.
There were thousands of people at this event, though.
So I don't know if you guys have seen this video of the eyewitness there. I've seen it a few times. And he explains it very, very well. Like, so if you saw it, people saw it, people are pointing, saying, there's a guy on the roof with a gun. There's a guy crawling on the roof, and they let the police know, they let the Secret Service know, and they did nothing. He said that, they literally looked at him like, oh, well, whatever, whatever, we're going to continue, whatever. And so, they didn't show the full clip here, and I didn't pull it either. But, when he was saying that they were telling the police and the Secret Service this, and he was just confused as to why is it that President Trump was still on the stage, or President Trump was on the stage. Why hadn't they pulled him off? Why was he still on there when this guy is crawling on the roof with a gun, a rifle? Why is it that nobody was up there first? Why was there nobody protecting that area? So it's interesting. And then he says, right then and there, boom, 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 the shots went off, and then boom, the Secret Service took the guy out. Like it happened like that. So I don't see how come they didn't have eyes on this roof and this guy. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
And this early testimony is still being verified. The House Oversight Committee has already called on Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle to testify to Congress about what went wrong.
Is this a failure of security?
Really, at this point, we're not going to make that assessment. Things need to occur investigatively to make those determinations of what, if any, failures there were.
The Department of Homeland Security, in their 2024 assessment, identified several rising threats inside America this year, including foreign and domestic terrorism and political extremism. The report states over the past year, both domestic violent extremists and homegrown violent extremists, inspired by foreign terrorist organizations, have engaged in violence in reaction to social political events, motivated by a mix of conspiracy theories, personalized grievances, and enduring racial, ethnic, religious, and anti-government ideologies often shared online. At first, I was shocked that this even happened in our country. It would be the first time a U.S. president or presidential candidate was injured in an attempted assassination since President Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981. But maybe I shouldn't have been that surprised. According to this New York Times nationwide poll, 10% of those surveyed said that the use of force is justified to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president. A third of those gave that answer also said they owned guns. That's why the next major question will be, what was the shooter's motive? There are many different potential motivations, as we've already seen them play out around the world in recent assassination attempts. The United States Intelligence Agency recently helped foil a Russian plot to assassinate the CEO of German company Rheinmetall that's providing artillery and vehicles used against Russia. There was also an assassination attempt against the Slovak prime minister for political purposes. The FBI, who's heading up the investigation, released information that the shooter's a 20-year-old white male from Pennsylvania. I'm not going to say his name publicly on this platform because I don't want to give air or notoriety to an individual like that. But finding out the motive for law enforcement officials will be an important step to making sure there aren't additional threats. If it does turn out to be politically motivated, it could be a disgruntled Republican or Democrat, which would have an impact on where this goes from here. I definitely should not have been that shocked. After seeing things like this New York City theatrical group, Shakespeare in the Park, doing a rendition of President Trump getting stabbed to death in modern-day version of Julius Caesar while he was in office. It wouldn't even be the first politically motivated assassination attempt on Trump. In 2016, someone tried to pull a Secret Service agent's service pistol on Trump, but he was stopped and arrested. This is disturbing to me, and I kind of needed to get this off my chest. I needed to say something about this so that I feel like it's not just bottled up inside. And I think some other people hopefully can understand where I'm coming from.
Thank you, friend. Thank you so much. Thank you for that analysis of what's happened. Thank you so much, because we need to understand. I need to understand. And I'm grateful that he made this video and is helping me to understand better. So this was not the first attempt for them to try to take out President Trump. I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I am grateful once again to know that he is fine, he is okay, and that God and the angels really, really protected him. So we're going to move on to another one. And this time we're going to have our Rambo come to the stage and explain a few things to us. This is going to be Representative Cory Mills, my representative here in the great state of Florida. The great state of Florida.
Our sniper, we put together what we call range fans for our range card. We usually keep it right next to us. It's an overlay of the area, usually a satellite image, and it has our 100-yard line, our 200-yard line, our 300-yard line, and we identify the buildings and the areas for potential threat in those, so that when you do identify a threat, you don't have to actually what they call milling out, which is to determine the distance of that actual target. You have it within your range fan. You can quickly glance down and say, roughly 200, and you can dial your elevation, look at your windage, make your call, and then fire your shot. Look, at 230 yards, which is what this is being estimated by, we have to bear in mind something. An AR-15, or any rifle of that matter, has what they call minutes of angle, which means what the capability of the rifle is. A standard rifle, which is a basic rifle's capabilities, is 1 MOA, which means for every 100 yards is 1-inch grouping capabilities. You're talking about that at 230 yards, the average shooter could actually point at a target, fire 5 to 6 rounds, and somewhere within that group would be about a 2.3-inch grouping at 230 yards. The average life-size man target is a 20 by 40, 20 shoulder to shoulder, 40 waist to head. President Trump obviously is a much larger guy. He's a much taller guy. So it is by miracle and divine intervention that he is not killed today. And so there was a failure in the breach of security. I will identify that immediately. I will tell you that we always take the high ground for your overwatch positions. You always look at what the ability is to see the crowd so that you can mitigate threats at an elevated position. And one of the areas why you look at high angle fire shooting is also the direction and trajectory of the bullet itself. It's not like shooting at a flat trajectory where you have over penetration and can get other individuals. This is going to eventually just hit into the ground. So the oversight on this is that you're talking about 230 yards, which is nothing for a shot, adjacent to the stage of the president, and there was no one on that building. No one, even if you're not going to put anyone on the building, standing next to the building to ensure there's no access to the building. So I'm glad that the speaker is going to do an investigation on this, because I think that it's warranted. I think that I applaud again what the Secret Service detail had done, what the counter sniper CS team has done. But I will tell you, this is a massive security breach, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and we can show on the screen too. So this is first of all, we're looking at it.
We'll come back to her. Massive security breach in his opinion, right? Massive. I mean, the media has done such a job when it comes to, all of this. Massive security breach. I'm just like baffled at it. Anyway, I'm gonna let it go.
Here, or we were looking at a map. And if we could bring up, there's imagery of the shooter, deceased shooter, on the top of a rooftop, just to kind of give people some context of what we're looking for here. But to just sort of, Congressman, like dig in on this, there were also reports.
Like, why is it even blurred out? Like, you can't even make out the image. They've like literally blurred it out. Like, you can't even like see what it is, you know, or the person. Like, I'd like to see, you know, it's like a big old blurb.
And we have some information coming into CNN this morning that somebody was seen going roof to roof. There was an eyewitness that talked to the BBC about trying to warn.
Look at how low that is. Like, you see how the people are on the ground. So this is where they were seeing that guy crawling on there. It's eye level. Like, you could totally see that. They're looking at it. The shot is very clear. You could totally see, you know, this guy on the roof. Like, it's not that high. So
people about this. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around. I mean, it sounds to me like you're saying this was an incredibly significant.
This is a very significant security breach. And this is why it's so important, not only to ensure that presidential candidates and others have the necessary resources on their details and not to try and save money by trying to cut or deny resource and details. Look, you're talking about even, you know, Kennedy himself, who's running right now, has denied his own detail. I mean, he was supposed to get a security detail as a presidential nominee, or, you know, for an independent party, but he didn't even get an actual, and you're talking about a guy who lost his dad and his uncle. So, you know, it is serious when you talk about security breaches and you talk about the apparatuses that are being utilized. And so I would just stress the fact that not only do I see this as a massive security breach, but also we have to play into a part of, you have to work with your local law enforcement departments, you have to work in with other agencies and coordinate to ensure that at a minimum, I would have said, you have a local law enforcement officer at that location where that building is to ensure that no one can gain access to a higher ground location. That in itself could have prevented this actual shooting.
Congressman, you also said that you spoke with Eric Trump last night. Can you tell us a little bit about how the family is coping and what else you spoke about?
Well, I'm not going to go into kind of my conversation with him, but I will just stress the fact that, you know, he felt very strongly, one, about the excellent job that the Secret Service has done. One of the females that was actually corralling around the president to try and get him was actually on his detail whenever he was on Eric's, and said that she's absolutely phenomenal, as well as for the fact that the gentleman that's just to the right in the picture there right now, you know, Eric said these are some of the most loyal, most dedicated, most committed individuals that you'll ever find. And, you know, he is continue to provide accolades, and even to the CS teams, the counter sniper teams, to say these are the guys who are the best of the best. I've shot with them. I've seen what they do, whether it be at Quantico, whether it be at Meade, wherever be the case. But his concern is that he definitely said, Cory, if that was you or I, this would have been a whole different story. And we just have to be thankful for the fact that through divine intervention, through a very luck where literally milliseconds and millimeters matter, that this didn't end up a lot worse. And so obviously I know it's very shaking and rattling for the children of President Trump, also for those around him, but this is a time, and I like what you said in our earlier segment, this is a time that is not about partisanship right now. This is not a Democrat, Republican, conservative, socialist. This is an American issue where we just saw a massive security breach that could have resulted in the assassination of President Trump. And we have to take this very seriously, and we cannot in any way utilize dangerous rhetoric, which is going to continue to amplify things. We need to actually hit the cool down button right now and understand that America is better than this, and that we have to continue to pray for all of our candidates and all those who are running for office, because we put ourselves out there. You know, I've had death threats while I've been running. I've had people who, when I go into certain events, I have my, you know, Seminole County police officers, the sheriff's office, or Volusia Sheriff's Office, who has actually had to be there because they want to make sure they're responding. This is a time that we need to take it down a notch. And so we have to start looking at how do we utilize the RNC convention that I'm heading to today at around noon. How do I use that platform to be able to try and say, look, let's take it down a notch to understand what this is really about. It's about unification. It's about ensuring the safety, security of America. It's about getting America back to its greatness and where we were. And so this is a very pivotal point.
I'm going to open up to questions from the panel here in just a second. But I also do want to ask you, you are a sniper yourself. You have been a sniper yourself. Can you, I mean, how good was this guy as a shot?
He wasn't, and that was the thing that saved the president. The bottom line is that I can tell you with absolute certainty, if you put me at 200 yards, you know, we were trained that anything within 300 yards and in, you would only do what they call hollow T's, which is here and here. That is your only mark in which you're actually aiming and shooting for. Anything beyond that, you basically do a center mass shot. When you're talking 230 yards, I will tell you that I can look on target, get on target, and then close my eyes and pull the trigger and still hit a man-sized target silhouette all day long.
Yeah, so that's what you were saying before. One second. That's what you were saying before when you said if it was you shooting or Eric Trump shooting, that this
or anyone who had true
anyone
experience.
who was actually experienced, that's what would have happened.
That
Sorry,
was my
Elliot, go
question.
ahead.
It's just you're a sharpshooter. Are we holding? You see what I'm getting at? It's
The average shooter could.
The average
could do
shooter
this.
could have been able to do that. Okay.
I can put anyone on this panel onto an actual range,
Right.
dial in exactly where it needs to be, and in some cases not even dial in the elevation, just tell you, go ahead and see the crosshairs and aim at your target,
Right.
and I will tell you 9 out of 10 times you're going to hit that target.
Right.
Terrifying.
Having done.
So you guys, when this happened yesterday, so what Cory Mills has said right now, I believe like this was like some sort of professional. And so, but this kid, he was 20. So he was not a professional. If he was a professional, President Trump would be unalive, as they're saying right now. Unalive is what he would be right now. This kid did not know what he was doing, not a professional. And so for that, we say, thank you, Lord Jesus. But now that brings up a question again. What was his motive? What was his motive to do this? If this was not a professional hit, what was this kid's motive to do this?
Advance as well. There's such a relationship between the advance team
Absolutely.
and the Secret Service in figuring out where can the candidate be, where is the counter assault team going to be, where's
the stage going to be,
exactly,
where's the tight
all
shot
of those
be?
things. And part of what I have found surprising, I'm not criticizing anyone until we know the facts, but it was surprising to me when we see the map that this building, I guess, was outside of the perimeter and somehow maybe not
that's the issue.
accounted
300
for.
yards is not outside the perimeter
I see.
when they have a permissible and visible shooting platform. The thing for me is that everyone, I hear this continually utilized, well, it's outside of the platform or perimeter or shooter. Who determines the distance on the perimeter? Your security advance team does. So when you lay that out, if that was a private business, and I believe I saw earlier it was AGR or something like this, correct? You would actually have your law enforcement, your advance team go talk to the CEO there and say, hey, listen, we are obviously having a rally. We don't want it to disrupt your business. We want to make sure that you guys have the ability to come in and out of the parking lot so it doesn't disrupt things. But could we actually put someone on your rooftop to be able to provide additional oversight? I've never seen where we've been denied that opportunity. And even if they did, you would at minimum have at least said, well, can we at least make sure that any of the areas which is permissible to get to the rooftop, that we can place a security guy there or we can place a law enforcement officer there?
And one thing I want to show our viewers, if we could put up the Doug Mills photograph, please, to just kind of underscore what the congressman has been talking about here. That is a picture of a bullet, right? You can see it circled there. And I mean, Congressman, I welcome your comments on this as you have been discussing kind of just how close this call was.
Gosh, so I thought the bullet came from this way and it hit him, this way, but it's looking like the bullet was coming from the back and got his ear from that way. Wow.
We call the vapor trail. And what you find is in days of higher humidity, you actually see this more clearly. This is the benefits of why when a sniper and their spotter will lay down in a prone position and overlap one another, it's so that while the recoil is absorbed by the shooter themselves, the spotter can actually watch the vapor trail of where the bullet's going so that if it didn't impact target, they can actually call for the follow-up corrections. So what you're seeing there is a vapor trail that's coming off of the actual bullet. Now, the bullet is beyond the actual area of the circle that they're looking at right now. That is obviously the trailing area. But the point is that you see that literally, as I stated earlier, milliseconds and millimeters matter. And the president is exceptionally blessed and fortunate, and thank God he had God's hand to protect him at this moment. But this is a huge security breach where I I love our law enforcement officers. I love our federal law enforcement officers. But this has to go beyond just their internal investigation. This needs to be a congressional oversight investigation. This needs to be ensuring that everyone in the American populace can say, I am confident with the findings of this. They don't feel that it's a quoted inside job. They don't feel like this is something that was just other than a security breach or a security flaw. And I think that that's important for us to give the confidence to understand that, this assassination attempt will not occur in the future and that we will have a stronger apparatus that's still established.
Wow, guys. That was great explanation by Representative Cory Mills. Hold on a second. Let's see. Here. Yeah, that was great. Thank you, CNN. That was CNN. Can you believe that? My God, they actually let him talk and explain things and actually, was civil. Something you rarely see from CNN. So that was good. Oh my God, so much there, so much. This thing was a breach. How could this even happen? How could it even happen? Well, we're gonna take next Dan Bongino via thank you to Benny, my boy Benny, the Benny Johnson show. So we're gonna take this from Benny, who had a great video from his show, and we're going to take it in its entirety because he does do different things, and I was not able to cut it up just to pull the parts from Bongino. So we're going to take the entire Benny show in. So we're going to bring him up.
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. After the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life, there are a few questions like, one, is Donald Trump okay? Yes, Donald Trump is okay. According to doctors and his own campaign, he walked off his own jet under his own power last night. His campaign says the president is fine. Two, how the hell did this happen? How did a left-wing Joe Biden donor get within 100 yards of Donald Trump on a rooftop, an elevated surface with a rifle, a surface that he crawled on in the middle of the day? And he was so obvious that people from the crowd were pointing him out and people were filming the assassin. How did the snipers miss this? How did the Secret Service miss this? This is very much squarely in the you had one job category. I texted a personal sniper friend about this, and he had a chilling response to me this morning. The response came in at 4 a.m. This guy has 20 years of military service, trained with the Secret Service, and is currently active duty. I have no clue what they are doing. I'm still trying to wrap my head around a building 150 yards away that was outside of the security perimeter and had rooftop access. I've trained with and competed against the Secret Service snipers, and they are the fastest, most accurate shooters I've ever seen. The fact that they let this happen makes zero sense. Chilling. What happened to these snipers? These are the snipers that were on the rooftop. They were clearly looking in the direction of the man, the dead man with the firearm, the assassin. Why didn't they shoot? How are you allowed to just crawl up and put a bead on Donald Trump and then fire off 7 rounds? Also, what about the embarrassing humiliation of the Secret Service agents not even being able to holster their own weapons?
Benny makes a great point. Yesterday, when I saw the video for the first time on the news, and I was watching the girl trying to put her gun back. I'm like, I was like, whoa, what's she doing? Like, she was trying to, she couldn't get it in. And I'm just like, but now that Benny has said it, I'm like, wow, this is screaming incompetence. Like, you can't even put your gun up the right way. Like, you can't even get that on. I know that there was a lot of pressure and people would but she couldn't even get the gun in. Like, you're supposed to be trained with this. You're supposed to be able to do that. 1, 2, 3, done. Like, she was fighting, trying to put the gun away. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Yesterday, I was just not really paying attention to it. I recognized it. I noticed it, but I was just like, okay, but Benny really, talks about that.
Gear falling on the ground, erratic, embarrassing disorder and humiliation. What about this? Why is there a Secret Service agent that is at least 2 feet shorter than Donald Trump there to cover Trump. How that?
And again, like, they're supposed to cover him like a doom. Like, you're not supposed to see anything about Trump. Like, you're not supposed to see anything. Like, after he did his fist thing, they should have been like on top of that. Like, look at him. He's wide open there. This is after he did the fist. He's just wide open there. Like, you're seeing his head. You're seeing everything. You're seeing him. You're not supposed to see that. He's supposed to be covered from head to toe.
The hell is that supposed to work? Just basic physics here. These are just some questions, ladies and gentlemen. To answer these questions, we got to go to somebody who would know better than anyone. A man who is as connected to the Secret Service as any person alive, a man who's been a Secret Service agent, and a man who is one of the most honest people that we've ever met. Dan Bongino was on Fox News just a moment ago and exposed everything wrong with this current moment. Let's have a listen.
You're telling me the best technology you have was deployed and you missed a shooter 130 yards? Say it was 200 yards. The Secret Service CS team, Pete, the counter sniper teams, and I'm not sure those two guys are Secret Service. We have to remember that we don't always, when we go to New York sometimes with high-level protectees, we'll use NYPD ESU counter sniper. So I'm not really sure either way, they'd still be briefed in. The question we have to ask is, if that's the best technology we have, and we had a CS team up there with a shooter that, we're trained out to 1,000 yards in the Secret Service with the counter sniper team. How did they miss someone at most, 1/5 of the way there? It doesn't make any sense. And even worse, it's broad daylight on a white roof. So again, open questions here. Was there forward-looking infrared deployed? Was there aerial support, drones, helicopters? Something happened too. If you go back and listen to the audio, I want you to listen to this after I get off here. When Donald Trump, after this tragic thing happens, you'll see the Secret Service agents. And by the way, I know some of those guys personally. It takes a lot to run into bullets, divorcing the security failure. So at least they did that part, correctly, and they knew what they were doing after the security absolutely failed. But you're going to hear something if you listen closely. The guy mentions Hawkeye on the scene. He's talking about those two, the black BDU with the tactical gear CAT element, that 2-man CAT element. That stands for Counter Assault Team. That's a Secret Service Special Weapons Team, equivalent to our SWAT. So they're there. They all deployed and did what had to be done after the security failed. But having said that, there was no reason for them to have to do that. There's only one entity out there that saved Donald Trump's life yesterday, and it pains me to tell you guys this. And you know what that is? It's Donald Trump. If he moves his head an inch to the left or right, guys, this is a really different show today. I mean, it's bad enough we have to do this show about this topic. Can you imagine what would have happened if Donald Trump did not duck? And looking at the stage there, I'm speculating, but I'm pretty sure based on experience that the bunting around the front of the stage is probably armor. Donald Trump knew to duck. I mean, most people would. He saved his own life. That's just a fact. The evacuation did not go right. I mean, the rule with the Secret Service is cover the protectee and evacuate. The other rule is maximum to the protectee, minimum to the problem. Why minimum to the problem? Because you don't know that's the only problem. It could be a distraction. There could be another person in the crowd. So if you don't jump on the protectee, you could be looking at multiple shooters. So at least that part, the guys there, stepped up there. But the failure here is absolutely catastrophic. And I got to tell you, the Secret Service should be very careful. I can tell you and absolutely confirm from the horse's mouth, from multiple people, not just one. And I saw Congressman Waltz text this out before on X. There have been repeated requests to increase the security footprint around not just the residences of Donald Trump, but the body itself. And they have been rebuffed. Like I said, I can tell you actual quotes. The Secret Service directors completely failed and candidly should resign today. Kim Cheadle has failed Donald Trump and honestly failed Joe Biden, too. He's the president right now. Where's the DHS secretary? I mean, you're blaming it on manpower? So just to be clear, we're a $4 trillion United States government and we can't fork over enough money to keep our people alive? And then you're sending out tweets like, oh, this is the best technology we have. Really? to let a sniper 150 yards away from the potential next president shoot a piece of his ear off? That's your victory lap? Give me a break, man.
This is absolute.
Hold on, Benny, my darling. Hold on. Where were the drones? That's what he talked about. The drones, right? Those things, they fly those things everywhere. Why weren't there drones showing you what was happening, like people monitoring some sort of tablet or whatever? You know, I don't know what their equipment is like, but even watching that, somebody's in their special trucks watching because of the drones are running around to show them, yeah, this guy is creeping up on the ceiling. Like, where was that set up? Where was that set up?
Flamethrower stuff from Dan Bongino. I want to just brief you on the drama here. Dan Bongino came out with a report yesterday that was verified by a number of members of Congress and reporters that the Secret Service has multiple requests from Trump's team for larger and better protection. And the Secret Service has denied those requests. The Secret Service came out and said that that's false. And so that is what Dan Bongino is alluding to here when he says the Secret Service better watch out. Dan Bongino is 100% correct when it comes to the schematics of this. This individual was 150 yards away. This was where the shooter was, and this was where Donald Trump was. This was where the Secret Service was.
I mean, that's crazy. Look at that. That's crazy. Could there be no coverage, no protection? Like, yo. No conspiracy theories, friends, but something smells fishy to me. Something smells fishy to me.
Why didn't the Secret Service engage? Why didn't the Secret Service engage? There are multiple people who are eyewitnesses saying that they saw the shooter beforehand. They saw the shooter. So how is it possible? And they alerted law enforcement. So how is it possible that law enforcement did not engage? Again, multiple witnesses have come forward and talked to the press and said, I notified law enforcement of a mysterious man on a rooftop, and they did nothing. So who's responsible here? Back to Bongino.
The difference between one opinion over the other in a courtroom and anywhere else is, can you back it up? I want everyone at home, go on your phone or computer now, and I want you to look up U.S. Secret Service, red ties, Donald Trump. Yeah, read it. The Secret Service was more concerned about protective agents around Donald Trump. If you think I'm making this up, go to a left-wing search engine if you think I'm biased. Go to Scroogle and put it, oh, you're reading a story right now. They were more concerned about the color of the Secret Service agents' ties around Donald Trump, given the perception that a red tie was somehow, I've got red ties. I'm a Republican. It's nothing to do with it. I just like red ties. They go nice with white shirts. That's an actual, oh, you see it right now. I'm not crazy. This is what the Secret Service was concerned about. They put out, 1,000 tweets about all of this DEI stuff. Do I know that's related here? I don't. I'm just saying, you have one job and only one job. Your job is keep the body alive, no matter what. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, the president of Djibouti, it doesn't matter. That is your job. They absolutely, resolutely, 100% failed. Not a single excuse should be made. Not a single excuse should be attempted. This should be the subject of congressional hearings and investigations, because if they can't do this, and this is the best technology you had, then folks, there's no purpose anymore. This isn't the agency I grew up in. It's not. I spent 12 years of my life there, and I'm telling you, I know some of those guys personally. These are good men and women. But this was an apocalyptic security failure. And don't ever forget, an uneventful failure is never a success. And the fact that Donald Trump didn't die yesterday is no reason for anybody to take some kind of victory lap. And before we start sending out plaudits, we better look and do a hot wash on this and find out exactly how abysmal this security plan was.
What an absolutely and completely devastating takedown by Bongino. Never heard anything like it. Scorched earth. And you know what? They deserve it. They deserve it.
They deserve it.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
Who gave the stand down order This is the greatest question. Who gave the order to say, don't shoot the man who's crawling towards Donald Trump with a rifle? Who gave that order? Why didn't this man take the shot? Why? Why? That is the question. Dan Bongino saying that there is no victory here. This is the greatest catastrophic failure he's ever seen, and he's ashamed of the Secret Service. And I got to tell you, it is tough. It is tough.
Thanks, Benny.
I got law enforcement in my family. I got people who I know who have worked on the Secret Service or trained with the Secret Service. And
thanks, Benny. Wow, you guys. So that was like a lot of information that I understand a little bit better. What I really understand is that these people failed President Trump. That's what I got out of this, is that the Secret Service failed President Trump. These people have the technology right now where they can drone on top. They can look at the whole parameter. Like, why wasn't that happening? Was somebody studying the whole parameter as this thing is happening, as it's going on? Like, they failed him. And the woman who is the head of the Secret Service, I believe it's a woman, they're calling for her job. They're calling for her to resign. You know, maybe there's more to the story than we're seeing, but I'm praying that, you know, we find out exactly what happened, because we need to know this. We need to know exactly what went on and what happened. So I'm really just glad I was able to come together tonight to present this so we could have a better understanding of what went on. So you guys, I just thank you so much for taking the time and coming along with me tonight. Really, really do appreciate it. I'm getting more comfortable doing these live streams. So I'm no expert yet, but give me some time, friends. Give me some time. I'll be able to get my personality in it the way I do on my regular videos. So just give me some time to work with it to be able to really own it. All right. I'm going to own the streaming thing. I'm going to own it at some point. So God bless you guys. Thank you for coming out. And let's continue to pray for President Trump. I had an amazing day today in prayer. My pastor actually talked about President Trump and all of this. And then we had that prayer event this afternoon as well. So people all over the country, all over the world is praying for President Trump. And we need to continue to pray and pray and pray, man, because I'm telling you, that bullet, the angels of God was covering Donald Trump. Like, this is his ear, y'all. This is his head, y'all. It could have been a completely different conversation. As I think Dan Bongino said, it could have been a different conversation today. So, but you know, it's happened, and we just have to figure out a way to move forward. So thank you again. God bless you and keep you. I'm going to let you go. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. I'm going to do that myself. Tomorrow is going to be another busy day for me. And but I'm going to just say good night to you all. And I'm going to play my outro. I'm going to play my little outro. Add that to the stage. Play it again. All right, we're out. Deuces.